38 years ago, a golden era of British wrestling ended when World of Sport Wrestling disappeared from televisions in 1985. But the passion for wrestling in the UK has never died down. AEW recently held an event here last year at Wembley, hosting a turnstile attendance of 72,265. WWE also hosted an event the month prior in July as Money in the Bank was welcomed at the O2, showcasing why many believe the UK deserves a WrestleMania. However, the climb up the ladder is not easy. Yorkshire-born Dan Robertson is an upcoming talent in the North. He has found out early on in his career that there is more to wrestling than what is displayed on TV.
Jump was, I thought it was initially quite tricky because I didn't know where to start, because living in York, we have shows that come in York.
But we don't have no trainers.
We don't have any training facilities in York, which I think is a damn shame, because there's so many, there are a lot of wrestling fans in York that I'm sure would love to pick it up, but they're just not able to because they can't get to these places. But the jump between amateur wrestling and professional wrestling is a lot. With amateur wrestling, it's all about technique, it's all about focus. With wrestling, there's technique and focus, but then you're also forgetting there's a crowd there. And unlike amateur wrestling, where it doesn't really matter what the crowd's chanting. If they're amateur wrestling, someone's chanting for one dude, but the other dude's better, that other dude's going to win. It doesn't matter. But with professional wrestling, the crowd's opinion is everything. They make or break characters, they make or break shows.
What's the training like? What's it like balancing real life with these shows?
Balancing real life is hard, because obviously I'm sure a lot of people in the industry, if they had the choice, they would just get off their day job and just do professional wrestling full time. But not everyone gets that luxury, and it's a sad truth in wrestling, not everyone's going to make it in professional wrestling. It's just a fact, because there are so limited spots that it's all about so many different things. In terms of training, training is basically the most important thing that we can do as professional wrestlers, because it is a mark of disrespect to the professional wrestling industry if you're not willing to train but then are getting put on shows in front of paying audiences. And I'm going to be honest, I'm guilty of that as well. I haven't don't train as much as I should, and yet I'm still lucky and fortunate enough to be put on shows. But it's all about earning those spots. And I won't say I've earned some of the spots I have, but maybe some of the spots I don't think I haven't earned.
The Shoot Pro Wrestling, also known as PPW, is a training facility based in Sheffield. They offer local amateur wrestlers an opportunity to learn the craft of the sport and practice their skills. Training is important here, with beginner courses being offered as well as character work and mic skills.
Obviously, you say you've been watching it for years. What's it like actually stepping into a ring and, like you say, taking that first bump?
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. I remember when I first came in and I was like, wow, this is sick. This is an actual wrestling ring. And then you realise how not soft the wrestling rings are. You're on the ropes, and then after your first week, you'll have marks across your back from where you've run the ropes. When you take bumps, your neck will be aching, and then over time, you start getting conditioned to that, and then it's just the creativeness as well of having. You can do it you watch shows, and then you'll take little bits from shows, and then you bring it here, and you think, how can I work this into my style? And then you develop your own style as well. So yeah, it's just amazing. Really
so
good.
what's your style like then?
So my style is. I'm going to be a heel, so that's like a bad guy. So my style is quite hard hitting, quite punctuating moves. So I'll literally do a big move, I'll stand up, I'll let it breathe a bit, and then move on to the next thing. So I've been told that my style is quite calculated, and no wasted movement. So that's not my style.
And what made you want to be a heel?
To be fair, I didn't have anything in mind when I first came in. I was just I'm going to start it, and then I'm going to let my natural character come out. So I would say I'm quite a nice guy, but in the ring I like to do a lot of grunting and shouting and stuff like that. And I quite like the idea of being a bit of an idiot to the crowd and getting that reaction from people. I feel like I thrive off that. So straight away, there was yeah, okay, you need to work as a heel, definitely.
obviously, how long have you been doing this now?
So just under a year, literally.
So you've been doing it for a year now. You've got some experience.
Yeah.
What would you say to people looking to get started? Obviously, you were starting yourself at one point.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. Like, literally, do not be afraid to pop down to a gym. Like I say, if you're in the Sheffield area, around Sheffield, PPW is great. You can literally turn up the front door and it's the most welcoming environment ever. We are big guys, you know, there's some big burly guys here, but they are like the nicest people in the world, so don't ever be too afraid. And it's never too late as well, because we've got a guy who comes here and he's in his 50s, do you know what I mean? And he's wrestling about with us. So you're never too old, and you know, you may as well give it a shot while you can, you know, no regrets and stuff like that, really.
Obviously, we were saying out there that you wanted to do some shows international. What's the kind of appeal to international wrestling?
The appeal to international wrestling, I guess it's similar in a way to like an artist. So in a way, it's like a bit of an art form, wrestling I see. So it's you can do it in England and stuff like that, but then to be able to take your art form to a different country and it translate over there, which I think is really good, because wrestling is like a universal language. Like everybody all the wrestlers know around the world what a clothesline is, what a suplex is, and I just think your ability to go across, and like also different cultures and different countries have different ways of doing things, different styles. So there's always that option to learn more there, and that ability to learn more from different countries. So yeah.
And then we were also talking about that you prefer to watch independent shows in Britain. What do you think is most appealing about them currently at the minute?
For independent wise, the reason why I watch independent more than anything else is that's where I want to go into the independent scene. So I'm always looking at it and thinking, you know, what's kind of popular in a minute, what's the style that's popular, because everything goes in trends. Similar, like when you look back at WWE back in the Attitude Era, it's a completely different product to what it is now, and the wrestling style is completely different. Back then matches were a lot shorter, whereas now they're quite long. And there's just so much of it as well. Like, you can watch WWE, there's quite a lot of that, but that's WWE and that's their style. Whereas if you watch indie shows, there's different styles the different shows have different styles. So it's always good to like see what's different out there, what's working different.
Head trainer Liam Slater has been wrestling for over a decade, but has taken on coaching after stints in personal training during his career. He discusses his coaching style and the realities of the wrestling industry.
We've got a great community of people here, and it kind of, I don't want to say weeds people out, but like, I think the people that come in being like, I'm going to be great and I'm going to be the best, that soon diminishes. One, because I don't massively abide by it. Not that I'm like, stop doing what you're doing. I just go, okay. And then when they start to do stuff, I'm like, this and this and this. And it's never in a mean way, it's never in a harsh way. I'm just like, these are the realities that we have to go through. They soon start to go like, oh, okay, maybe this is harder than I thought it was going to be. And that edge starts to come off. Again, I'm not like a fucking drill sergeant that's like murdering people. That's not what my style is at all. But I am like, this is difficult, and like, you need this and this and this. And then when they start to meet people and they see how people interact, we suddenly begin this community of people that all just really like wrestling. And when people don't fit into that, they tend to just drop a little bit quicker because they're not fitting into the community. And again, it's not like we're shunning them or anything. They just aren't the fit, which is fine, because I don't want people that are like, I'm the best, I'm this, I'm this, because that's not what makes a conducive community and everybody better.
People that don't know wrestling as much, or people need to get started into it, what would you say to them?
So I actually said this a couple of days ago, in that I actually don't think it's for everybody. And I'm not saying that in like you have to be ripped and 6 foot and etc. Like, you'll see that we've got a bunch of different people who have a bunch of different shapes and sizes and ages and all that sort of stuff. It's the critical thinking that comes into the wrestling that I just don't think everybody's caught out for, and the mental task of making yourself take bumps and take moves and that sort of stuff. I think people should have a go at it if they want to have a go at it. But people have to set their expectations in the right place. Not everybody's going to go off and get signed.
It is clear to see the sport of wrestling is not an easy industry to participate or break into. Individuals must consider the many sacrifices and changing situations which will align with a successful career in the industry. Leon Slater, a young and upcoming talent in the British wrestling scene. Leon has already fought in multiple companies including RevPro and New Japan, and at just 19 years old has already broken onto the international scene, signing with TNA.
The TNA thing kind of came out of nowhere, if I'm honest. So I had met Josh Alexander at a Sovereign Pro show back in like February of last year. And he'd seen my match with Endicott, and I had a little chat with him afterwards, and he told me to stay in touch. We shot some messages back and forth, and eventually, when it came time for for Impact to come over for the UK Invasion tour, Josh hit me up and he was like, "Yo, they want you for a date." So I'm like, "Cool, man, let's go." And then a couple weeks later, he was like, "Okay, they want you for 2 days." I'm like, "Holy shit, let's fucking go." And then a couple weeks later, he hits me up, "Okay, they want you for all 4 days, bro." So I was like, "Damn, okay, I'm getting the opportunity to be the only British talent on all 4 of these shows." So I kind of had an inkling that they had a liking for me, you know. But I could have never expected the way that happened, you know. So I think it was on night 3 of the tour. It was night 3 or 4 against Frankie Kazarian in Coventry. We had a banger. And afterwards, Scott Music came down. And I'm thinking, because Alex Shelley got injured on that tour, so it was meant to be the Machine Guns and someone in a 6-man tag against Moose, Brian Myers, and it might have been Eddie Edwards as well. So I think the plan was for Kazarian to replace Shelley in that tag. So I'm thinking, okay, Scott's gonna come down. He's gonna announce Kazarian is in this match later. Cool. I'll keep to the side and let them do their thing. And then he looks at me and he goes,
"Seems like we need to maybe bring in and give some fresh young talent that type of opportunity."
I'm like, what the because obviously that's the kind of moment you dream of, bro. Like not only getting signed,
but getting announced
in front of everyone. And for me, I never really had Sky Sports growing up, so I couldn't watch the Raws and the SmackDowns on a weekly basis. So TNA is what I kind of grew up on, you know, like the TNA YouTube channel, especially all the X Division guys, and even the guys like Abyss and all them boys there. And this is something I will tell you, it's extremely important to have a balance. As much as it is important to be locked in with wrestling and be focused, you can't have one without the other. Because when wrestling's not going well, I'll always have my girlfriend, I'll always have my family, I'll always have my mom. When my personal life maybe isn't going so well, I'll have wrestling. So it's incredibly important to have that balance. And I just want to shout out my mom real quick, because same as PPW, man, I couldn't do this without her. I can't tell you how many times I've been flying to another country with £0, 0 pence in my fucking bank account, bro, and she's helped me out. I can't tell you how many times she's picked me up from someone's house after a show late night. I can't tell you how many times she's driven me to training. So my mom is an instrumental part in my journey, and I could not be where I am without her. But yeah, that family to wrestling life balance is super important, bro.
On to another journey in the industry, the heart and soul of British wrestling, JJ Gale. One of the biggest prospects in Revolution Pro Wrestling, JJ has also broken onto the international scene, competing for companies such as SAJ in Italy.
You know, I've got a clear memory of being in an ICT lesson in GCSEs during school when I was meant to be doing my coursework, and I was online just researching wrestling schools in the UK and finding the nearest one to me. So it's a case of doing that, eventually finding one that looked like it was within driving distance from where I lived at the time. I started when I was 16. Well, I actually had my first training session at 15. Had my first match at 16. So I was still young. So I was relying on my parents to take me. There was nowhere close to me. It was a 2-hour drive.
I can imagine that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't care. I was excited. I was getting to go and learn to wrestle. But my parents, I mean, I'm forever in a debt of gratitude for them for realising how passionate I was about this, realising that it was something I really wanted to uptake, and sort of supporting me in those first couple of years, getting me up there. I mean, they used to take it in turns every other week. So my mum would take me one week, and then I wouldn't go the next week, and then the following week my dad would take me. So they're going up there about once a month, because for them it's 2 hours up, kill time for 4 hours while I train, 2 hours back. So I do appreciate it. But yeah, that's kind of how I started. And then once you're in, you kind of just navigate your way through, and you're constantly learning, and it's just a constant journey that I'm far, far from finished. I feel like in some ways it's only really starting to kick off this year, to be honest. So yeah.
Okay. And so you talk about your parents there. How important was the support from your parents? Obviously, you're saying there they take driving 2 hours there and then 2 hours back whilst also having to kill time. What was their kind of thoughts when you first told them you wanted to be a wrestler, or did they kind of know from a young age?
I think I mean, I've never been quite as passionate about something as I am for wrestling. You know, I started watching it when I was about 6, 7 years old. So probably about 7, to be honest. And you know, it's one of those things you expect. You know, you might grow out of it. You know, a lot of kids go through that phase. Maybe they realise it's not all it's cracked out to be, or it's not cool anymore, and they kind of just move on.
Yeah.
For me, that never happened. I just got more intrigued by it. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know how it all worked. So I think they saw as the years went on, they were like, he's really, if anything, he's getting more and more into it. It's becoming more of a obsession. So I think they were always aware of the passion. And to be fair, I think my dad had reservations a little bit, just because, you know, it was a long way to go, and it's sort of, they didn't want to get me hurt. I mean, he's very, very worried about these things. He never wanted to see either of his boys get hurt or anything. But I think my mum always saw like the passion, and she was like, hell, look, I think, and I thank them for this, because I know a lot of people, you know, it's maybe not the typical path. They might think, let's steer them away from that. But I think if you see you're passionate in something, you know, you just got to go for it. And I mean, not saying that I'm a superstar or anything, but look where it's led. You know, I've put a lot of work in, and I've done some things that if you told me when I first started training I'd have done them, I would have believed it at the time, because I've always had that mindset of it's going to work, it's going to happen, I'm going to make it. But it still would have been like, fuck, I'm going to do that. That's really cool. So I appreciate that. They were very supportive, and they always have been. So yeah, they were a massive part to begin with, because without them, I couldn't have started for another however many years until I could move somewhere closer to a training school. So yeah, I'm forever in a debt of gratitude for them.
You've been wrestling in different countries over the past year. What's it? You've obviously said, you know, you're loving the grind. What's it like going into other countries and, you know, wrestling in front of different crowds?
Yeah, really cool. It's something I've only really started to do more regularly within the last year or two. And it's really exciting, because you go to a new country, and as a human being, you get to see somewhere else in the world and experience another culture briefly. And it's never the same as going on holiday somewhere or traveling, or really, you know, immerse yourself in that. You know, if as much as I can, if my schedule allows, I'll say, look, can I have a day or two either side, so I can, you know, see the city, or, you know, just experience as much of that place as you can. So that's really cool. And then also, like you say, the fans, there's different fans, and I find, you know, a lot of European shows I do, they're a lot more appreciative of the wrestling, because they don't see as much. I think British fans are quite spoiled, not in a bad way. They just have amazing wrestling week in and week out, and sometimes they forget how lucky they are, because there's not many places that get that. And then you go and do a show somewhere else, and they're just, you know, they don't see this quality of wrestling or these wrestlers week in and week out. So it's the coolest thing to them. You know, it's similar to someone like the WWE or whatever coming here, and, you know, we're not getting it every few months. They're not coming to our town for TV. We're getting it twice a year for a house show. So, you know, they're so excited, and you always hear the guys talk about that. So that's really cool. So yeah, it's really, really fun, and as much as possible, it's nice to take it in. I mean, recently, one of my regular European bookings is with SAJ in Italy, and it's become very set for me now. Fly out the morning of, I get there, I dump my stuff at the hotel, maybe take a nap or grab some food, to the venue, wrestle, sell some merch, have some food and a couple drinks afterwards, back to the hotel, and an aeroplane back for a show the next day. So it's very much an in and out. And it gets from a point of, oh, this is really exciting, I'm flying to Milan to wrestle, to, oh, this is a long travel day. I kind of wish I was just going up to London. But at the same time, you know, it's I'm grateful for it. I wouldn't want it to go away. It's good fun. So yeah, I enjoy it.
Passion for wrestling is alive more than ever. A new generation of wrestlers coming onto the scene with new ideas, new moves, and a new story to tell. All with a dream of one day making it to the big stage and showing the world why British wrestling is above all.